Like you have like 6 kids or something, right?
We have 5, although you're
5.
making me wonder if maybe there is a 6th that I don't know about.
Well, we had people out following everyone you've ever dated.
Yeah. I will say, this sheet that you send me, this is definitely a little more research than I usually see, which is great. I think it makes for way better conversation. So my son is named Zachary Parker Ence. So he like Googled himself at school or whatever, and he got the AI summary for me, which makes sense. Like, I'm glad he's not on the internet yet, right? He's like, this is like his first year in middle school. And it was pretty wild. It was like old podcasts that I had been on, kind of pulling in stories, and it was pretty funky. But yeah, no 6th child that I'm aware of. So
okay, 5.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, I mean, all we're doing here is training the future AI agents. We're just creating training data. That's effectively the point of podcast at this point. Right?
Yeah. Well, wait. I'm gonna do a quick humble brag before we actually start the podcast.
Yeah, go for it.
But so I had Google where it came up with like I did a search and it did like the deep dive thing, and I had Googled myself and it came up and it put me alongside Michael Kitces as like a wealth tech. I forget what it had said. I wish I should have screenshotted it, but like it put me up there and I was like, really?
Take it all day.
I'll take that.
Take it all day.
I'll take that. I don't think that's quite accurate, but I'll take it.
Yeah, you've been hard at work training the algorithms, haven't you? You've been mentioning every possible chance you can that you're better than Michael Kitces in some way.
Should we dig in, Mark?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's get going. All right, well, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Welcome to AI for Advisors with Mark Heynen and James Cantwell. Every week, Mark and James break down the latest in the world of wealth tech and AI, and occasionally bring in guests to spice things up. This is not investment advice and not professionally produced. I am not real and not yet sentient. Now let's get on with the show.
Welcome to AI for Advisors, episode 8. We're really excited today to have Parker Ence, CEO and co-founder of Jump, alongside myself and James. As many of you know, Parker is an industry thought leader on AI adoption very early to AI in wealth tech, and has been at the helm of one of the most rapidly growing companies within this space, pioneering a number of areas within AI for wealth tech. So welcome, Parker. I'm glad to have you here. And I would love to maybe kick off with you giving a bit of your background to the people who have not spent time hearing you talk. I know you're on the conference circuit quite a bit, and hearing a little more about your journey. And I understand, like many successful startups, you really came off of a pivot, which I think is really exciting, right? So I actually would love to hear a bit of that story as well. And, how it's been going, and specifically, how have you been managing this rapid growth in headcount and adoption?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Mark and James. Great to be here. We do run into each other, I feel like, a lot now at the conferences, and there's some advisors I run into at every conference. I'm like, when do you do work? Like, you're just at every conference that I ever go to.
Parker, we don't. We just go to conferences now. That's our full-time gig.
Yeah, it's great.
That is the work.
Yeah.
Someday you can send a robot avatar to all the conferences, and anyway. So
I'd rather the avatar do the work. I'll go to the conference.
Yeah, the bots are doing the work in the meetings.
It's like, depending on if you're very extroverted or introverted, you can decide, like, does the robot do the work, or does the robot go do socialization? And I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I never want to go to a conference or a party or any social gathering beforehand.
Right.
I'm never like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's do that. But once I'm there, I'm like, oh, this is actually great. This is a lot of fun. I go home energized. But anyway, that was...
I'm that way on roller coasters.
Your question mark. So,
thank you.
Anyway, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah. So my background, my first real job was mowing lawns for people in the neighborhood, which is a great first job. And then I was a guitar teacher for a while. But then coming out of college, quickly got really excited about tech and building companies. And my current co-founder, Tim Chavez, we had another company coming right out of undergrad. We were a software development agency. So we were making software products and apps and things for other companies. And at the time, the cool thing was the iPad had just come out. So we were making a lot of iPad apps and SEO websites, things like that, which
That's
was
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
And how did you and Tim meet?
So Tim is married to my first cousin. So we literally met at like Grammy's Sunday dinner situation and quickly connected. And have been really good friends. And I actually think it's been really fun to work with an amazing team. And certainly Tim was number one on my list of potential co-founders. So that's been really fun. You guys know the roller coaster of ups and downs in any entrepreneurial endeavor can be intense. And so it's great to have a partner. So yeah, so immediately before founding Jump, Tim had done a cloud accounting company. They competed with QuickBooks for kind of the low end of the market. That got acquired by a company called Bill.com. And so the timing kind of finally lined up for us to work together. Just before Jump, I was running a big data company. We were aggregating large data sets and processing them. We're using, in many cases, AI to try to clean up the data. And then we were selling those data sets to like hedge fund folks and others that were trying to get signal from massive amounts of data. We were processing billions of rows of data per day and trying to get some kind of signal from that. So that was really fun and a good opportunity for me to kind of learn how to operate a tech company that's dealing with a lot of data, in some cases sensitive data, and doing that well. So Tim and I, we kind of had always wanted to work together again. And so our original idea it was terrible. It was a secondary market for structured notes. And
these are debt notes, right? Structured debt, is that what we're talking about?
So this would be like structured products, and advisors actually set these up. So you basically go to a bank and the bank says, you're going to put in $100,000 and we're going to benchmark to like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or something. If the NASDAQ goes up by a certain amount, then you're going to share in that upside. But if it goes down, then we're going to basically cap your losses at a certain amount. And so it's very good for kind of risk-averse investors that want to kind of bind their return to a certain level. It's almost like a product that allows you to do hedging. One of the features, characteristics of these products is that you have to hold them for like 3 years or 2 years. They have an expiration date. And so we thought, this is great, provide early liquidity. And there's like no demand for this. So we spent 6 weeks on this and like nobody cared. And there's actually some other companies. There's a company called Halo that does some stuff in this area, if you've ever come across them. So we kind of quickly abandoned that. And so we did what kind of conventional advice is: try to find a problem that you have or a pain point that you have and solve it. And we hated typing data into the CRM. And so the very first, and by the way, we also hated trying to get our team members to update data in CRM.
Yeah, that is the worst. Yeah. And what CRM were you using at that point?
I was coming off of many years of Salesforce use, right? So, and I had been a Salesforce administrator at prior startups, because that's the last thing you want to pay for when you're like founding. Mm-hmm. So that was really the first version of Jump. And it was, how do we do a meeting, whether it's with a prospect or a customer or maybe some kind of customer support call, and pull out all the data that is relevant and then go look at your CRM and look at all the fields that you'd want to update. And with those two things together, pull out all the interesting information and structure it so that you could update your CRM with one click. And we were actually working with a pretty wide range of customers at that point. It was some salespeople and some customer support people. And then it just so happens I've got a brother-in-law, some friends that are advisors, and they were like 100 times more excited about this than anybody else we were talking to. And so we followed that signal, and it's like, here's your sign. And it took me a few times, to be honest. Like my brother was like, oh, I love it. And I was like, yeah, we're making this
Right.
So we eventually kind of got the memo. And the moment that I remember was I was actually out at the park with my kids, with my neighbor who had found.
I love the story, by the way. You told the story at the Nashville conference. I love it.
Yeah. So I was like out at the park, our kids are running around. And I was telling my neighbor he was kind of a breakaway RIA from one of the big wirehouses, had started his own RIA. And I was telling him about what we were doing. And he was kind of like, hey, this is so interesting. Notes are the bane of my existence. I love the relationships I have with my clients. I actually love investments. Like I'll go nerd out on the markets all day long, and I'll have this incredible conversation with a client, and it'll be so rewarding. And I feel like I'm really helping them. And then I get back to my office. I'm like, oh man, I've now got to go relive that meeting in the form of me typing it all out. And so that was, I think, really the moment where I realized we really need to focus in here. And so we then expanded out to what can we do before the meeting? What can we do after the meeting? And really everything that we've done has grown from that point based on what advisors have said. Hey, can you also do this? Can you also do this? And it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I want to double click on one thing and then throw it over to James. I mean, one thing I've been really impressed with is your growth. So, I mean, first of all, it's the adoption growth, right? So, financial advisors, especially for people not coming from that world, notoriously difficult to sell to, especially for a tech product, you have this diffusion of buying responsibility. They have to check with compliance, check with three other people, difficult to get authorized on Microsoft, et cetera. And obviously there's the broker dealer gate, right? So I think you've bucked a trend in some ways by actually getting adoption in a really short period of time without being from that industry. And so I'm actually curious about, your war stories of, how you actually navigated that. And then of course, the flip side of that is headcount growth. We've been reading going from 16 to 120 in about a year, if I got my numbers right. So how you manage that, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Well, if you see the bags under my eyes and the gray coming into my beard, that's how I manage it. But so for those that maybe aren't as familiar, we have grown quickly. We launched in January of 2024, and we had been building for about 15 months. So it's not like we launched with something thin. We had really been developing the technology, and we had started building around GPT-3. So we had a bit of a head start, which helped us a lot. I do think the timing was really good. I think that our team has good product sense, which is just figuring out, okay, I'm hearing what the customer says they want. What do they really need? And how do you deliver that in a way that can be easily used by somebody who's tech savvy, but also by somebody that is scared of technology, is not a good kind of adopter of technology. And then, of course, timing really helped. Underneath all of this, as we all know, this generative AI, incredible miracle that has been created by these foundational model companies is we didn't do that, right? We're benefiting from riding that wave and figuring out ways to apply it for this industry. But, it's incredible just seeing how everything's changing based off of that technological wave. So we're humble enough to say we are as basically every startup that was founded right in 2023, 2024. We are greatly benefiting from that fundamental technologies.
Yeah, well, you're just a rapper, right? And then this is so what's ironic. People said you're just a rapper, but really the rappers are really the only things that are creating value at this point, right? So that's what's so ironic about where we are right now.
It's actually really interesting. I was at an event within the last few weeks, and they had senior leadership from both OpenAI and Anthropic. And there were a lot of founders in the room. And, some of these founders had started companies that then got put out of business by OpenAI, building more features. And so the question that was asked to the OpenAI leader was, if you're a founder, but what's safe? What can I do that you, OpenAI, are not going to do? And I thought the answer was really interesting. He basically said, look, if it's kind of at the consumer level, we're going to probably pursue that. If it's at the very general kind of business, any business would benefit from this, we're going to pursue that. What we're not so confident about is where AI really collides with the real world, right? And he actually used healthcare in his example, where we've got a lot of physical things going on in a hospital. We've got a lot of compliance. We've got a lot of moving parts, people, procedures, policies, technical processes. That's really where the opportunity is. And I think in our space, a lot of those things apply, right? We have a lot of regulation. We have a lot of data that needs to be handled in a certain way. Maybe not quite to the extent of a hospital, right? There's not as much physical surgeries going on in financial services, right? But there's still, I think, a lot of these things. And so I think that's the exciting part is we can get really close with customers. We can become trusted partners and river guides. And then when every new wave of capability comes out, we can adapt that for them quickly and then allow them to benefit from that in a way that's native to them. So at least so far, who knows? Yeah, who knows?
So let's pivot for a second. We've been talking about kind of how Jump came to be and, a little bit about how you were able to ride the AI wave, kind of right place, right time, and a strong product. Now let's pivot and talk about the Wealthies. I heard you were just at the Wealthies and did quite well. So why don't you tell our listeners, firstly, what the Wealthies are, and then tell us a little bit about the experience you had at the Wealthies.
Yeah. So if you've ever seen the Emmys or the Oscars or the Grammys, any of these award shows, wealthmanagement.com in partnership with a bunch of other folks created the Wealth Management Industry Awards. And that name's way too long. So then people call it the Wealthies. And it's fun. It's like a black tie thing. And they kind of bring a lot of people in and they pack this room in. And this year is in this old bank that had been converted into like an event. It's fun. So they have different awards. To be clear, you have to either like get nominated or submit an application for these awards. They've got awards for firms. They also have awards for wealth tech. And this year, the whole co-founding team of Jump went out. Myself and Tim Chavez and Adam Kirk went out to New York, did the thing, and it was fun. So we actually won the product award for our category, which was really fun.
What is the category?
It was an AI award for, I don't actually remember exactly what it was called, but it was for basically client engagement, meetings, that kind of.
Right.
So that was really fun. And the way they do it is it's a panel of independent judges. You don't know who the judges are. It's not like a pay to play thing like some awards are, so which I think is good. And then I did also get recognized as the Wealth Tech CEO of the Year, which was kind of fun. And
congrats.
Thank you. And it was great and it was fun. And I actually told our team, like, I don't think we should be applying for these person-based awards. Just culturally, we're not really like culturally about that. Like my founders and I, we don't have kind of like there's a founder stereotype that like it is about the founder, like, right? And like not really. But it was great as a team win. Just it really was reflected, I think, the milestone that the milestones we've hit this last year. So it was really fun, and I would recommend. It's a great event.
So you obviously with things like the wealthies, you're forced to be put in a category. You're forced to put your product in a bucket. So one of the things that's really interesting, and I've heard you say, we never thought of ourselves as a note taker. We started out as a CRM updater. You told that story earlier. So I'm going to call them note takers. And I agree, they're not note takers anymore either. But these note takers, AI assistants, it's very interesting right now watching each of them kind of find how they're evolving and where they're going deeper. So for you guys, what would you call Jump today? And maybe where is that going to change in the future?
I think this whole concept of categories is incredibly fascinating. The dream as a founder is to create a category and be like Kleenex, be Google, right? Be kind of the manifestation of the category. I don't think that when we first launched, we were thinking about what category we were or in, and
nor should you be. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you don't know, these things unfold over time. There's always two versions of the founding story. There's the real version, which I gave you guys today. And then there's the, once you're in 5 years, it's like, we woke up and lightning and light bulbs, and we just saw transformation on the horizon. And,
and we pursued it relentlessly. Don't worry, no one's listened to this. So
we never gave up, we never gave up. We didn't take no for an answer,
Right.
Anyway, there's
the hero story, the hero's journey. But I think then what category are you trying to create?
It's a great question. So I think when we launched, there was this pre-existing category that was by the kind of horizontal note-taking tools, right? Think of Otter, Fathom, Fireflies that advisors had been exposed to. And so very naturally, we were getting labeled as, oh, this is an AI note taker, but it's for financial advisors, right? And I think that's fine. And I think if you're Googling for AI note taker for financial advisors, like we are that. We're more than that, but we are that. So I think the way that we think about Jump today is we're an AI meeting assistant. So certainly there's more there than just a note, right? But we're an AI meeting assistant, and we think of it as full cycle, right? So before, during, and after the meeting. And we're evolving into much more than that. I'd say now we have certainly an intelligence layer that we're putting on top of that, using the data to actually help the advisor grow faster. So that's going to be really important. And we've got some other things cooking that I don't want to talk too much about, but yeah, we do have some thoughts around what should this category look like, what role can Jump play in shaping that, which we're really excited about. But yeah, it's not going to be like note-taking will certainly not be the head of that, right?
So am I hearing meeting intelligence? Am I hearing intelligence platform? Am I hearing AI assistant? What is?
Yeah, I think I'll give you kind of the three components, and then maybe you guys can name it for us. I think we're still trying to figure this out.
At your service.
Yeah. So the core meeting assistant, of course, is going to be critical. And we see that continuing to expand, getting even better at pre-meeting. What's the experience during the meeting, right? Real time, on demand, etc. What happens after the meeting? What happens between meetings, right? There's work that happens between meetings as well. And that's really the core product of Jump today, and we'll continue to invest in that. And then we're going to wrap all of that in intelligence and insights around driving growth. How do we get more referrals for you? How do we help you improve your conversion rate from prospect to a client? How do we identify held away assets and help you bring those in? How do we give you signals for what to do next? How do we maybe enrich all of that with third-party data to give you even additional insight into what should be happening? So that's really important. And then finally, it wouldn't be an AI podcast if we didn't talk about agents,
Absolutely.
that would be it'd be a crime not to.
Heresy. Yeah.
But yes, and we have a joke around here that there's agents, like the marketing word for agents, and then there's actual real agents, which are a ton. Basically, it's like hiring an employee, right? You guys know this, but for those that aren't as familiar, like a pure agent would be you turn this thing on and it basically operates like a person that you've hired. It can like
Autonomously, right? I think the critical definition of an agent for me is
yes.
somewhat autonomous.
So we have a joke where there's agents, air quotes agents, and then there's agents, like real, pure. And our goal is to have both, right? So our goal is to have agentic workflows that help you finish those tasks. In order to do that, you also have to be connected into all the data sources. You have to have trust with your customer to be able to execute actions in their environment. So that's pretty meaty. That requires a high degree of trust with your customers, and so we're excited about that. So I don't know, put all those together. We'll have a good category name at some point in the future.
So
those are at least the vectors we're pursuing.
before we pivot away from Jump specifically and get into some of the other topics, I want to ask a more targeted question then. So right now with Jump, you're really about the meeting, pre, post, in between, etc. And Jump lives in my sent box, but it's not really living in my inbox and helping me triage emails or do other communications. Is that an area where Jump is going to look to expand?
Well, I would say we do live in the inbox a little bit, right? So we're already giving you proactive preparation content, just as one simple example. And that's just generated on, hey, I've got a meeting with this client in an hour. We're going to go pull all the data we have about that client and help you get ready. I think you're saying you're
more email management
on that,
than,
right? Yeah.
Yes.
We actually do have some things in that category that will go live soon. So think about, taking all the context that I have about a client and being able to draft all kinds of things. It could be an email, it could be pre-meeting prep, it could be other types of personalized content that is very time consuming to put together that now can be fast. So yes, that's absolutely within scope.
Yeah. And do you think advisors are ready for agentic AI? This has been debated a little bit. I think Kitces recently said, he doesn't think that's going to happen anytime soon. There's a compliance issue. There's the fact that it's high stakes and people want to be in the loop. I'm just curious, how do you see that folding out? Where are the no-go zones and where are the zones that are more?
I think it will be slow and then it'll be one of those like, it's slow and then it's all at once, right?
Snowballs.
And I think what has to be in place, what do you need to actually have a good agent in our industry? You have to have all the right data. So that requires a lot of integrations. It requires trust with your customers. You have to have a deep understanding of the advisor's day in the life to build an agent that actually is useful. So that requires a lot of context and understanding. And then the compliance piece is going to be, I think, the main holdup with agents is at what point are you ready to let an autonomous agent talk to your clients, prepare recommendations, deal with money movement? These are very sensitive things, highly regulated for good reason. Long graveyard of bad things that have happened to clients that have led to many regulations in this area. We actually feel really good about our glide path to get there because for us to do what we're doing today, we have to be getting the data. We have to be understanding the workflows. We have to build trust with our customers to get increasing access to more systems. And what we're seeing is, this time last year was all about, hey, I'm a leader of a RIA or a broker dealer. My advisors are coming to me saying, when can we have nice things? Like we want AI cool things around here. And it's like, okay, what's a low risk use case, right? And sure, I'll let you use ChatGPT as long as you don't put any customer or client data in there. Then what? Well, meeting efficiencies is a good, relatively safe place to start compared to recommendations, moving money, et cetera. And so now I think we're a year in from that moment. And now our customers are coming back saying, okay, this was a smashing success. Our advisors are saving massive amounts of time. We are now stepping back a little bit and we're more comfortable with the risks of generative AI. We have better understanding of what our AI transformation roadmap looks like. How do we become even better partners with you to figure out, like, how can you help us accelerate our roadmap as we move forward? And so that's really fun. And that started opening up a lot more opportunities to deeper integrations and really digging into the processes that are either very manual or could help an advisor grow, but are just very time consuming, or they just maybe don't even really know what to do yet, right? Just one simple example is you think about all of these like college intern or kind of entry level entry points into the industry. You've got junior advisors that are just coming in. In many cases, it's still a little bit sink or swim. It's like, hey, good luck. Like call your friends, call your family. Like if you survive 5 years, you'll probably make it, right? And I've had friends and family that have gone through that process. Now we can take the entire institution's knowledge, decades of experience of what works, what doesn't work, the best advisors, what are they doing, and push that into the product experience where I can show up and do my meeting. And then as soon as the meeting's over, I can get coaching and feedback based off of what the best advisor or advisors in the firm are doing. That's going to speed up my learning cycle so much. And the odds of me surviving to that 5-year mark are going to go way up, right? So we're excited about those types of things too. But again, that requires a lot of collaboration and trust with customers.
I think that's really a really interesting description because one of the conversations that has come up at more than one conference is how is AI going to change those entering the workforce in certain professions, right? Like if it can do these tasks now, and in some cases better than the average employee at that, in that firm, how do you even become a senior employee? How do you even get there? And so I think it's an interesting explanation of how it could be used to still cultivate talent and move people through a firm.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thought experiment for us to think about. If you fast forward just a few years, what will the experience be like for any consumer who's looking for financial advice, guidance, some way to invest and plan for the future? There will be incredible AI native experiences that involve no humans. Those will be available. And so then I think the question becomes, what value does the hybrid human plus digital drive? How do you make sure that, because it's going to be very easy to see that whatever a brand new junior, fresh advisor could do or would have been doing can now be done by AI. One simple example is very common to have a junior advisor just sit in all the meetings and take notes.
Right.
Yeah.
So well, that's kind of already not
That's gone.
necessary, right? Now they could certainly go review the meetings and learn from them, but they don't have to sit through all these meetings anymore. Maybe they're going to go do sort of para-planning type work and use that as a way to learn. Well, that's definitely going to be done by AI, right? So then the question is, okay, well, how are they going to learn, right? And so I think these types of experiences where they can get up to speed much faster and become as if they've been in the industry for 10 years, even though maybe they've only been in the industry for 6 months. And that, because they're not going to have the opportunities to learn the same way as prior generations.
That's kind of my thoughts as well. I think it's going to allow us to do more, to be better than before, right? And I think you said it very succinctly because they're not learning and training the same way, right? They have a different path. They'll be able to get farther faster. And so, yes, that path plus being AI enabled is going to let them do a lot more. And especially when it comes to more broader wealth management and thinking about the entire picture.
Yeah, I think the personal empowerment angle is super interesting. So I'm wondering, so we have this segment regularly called Best of LinkedIn where we grab random LinkedIn posts and we talk about them. And so mine for today is really the Kitces post from 2 days ago, which really talks about how, I'll quote it here. I'm sharing my screen. Administrative work takes a toll on advisors' well-being. According to Kitces' research, those looking to reduce their admin burden are more likely to see greater returns from hiring support staff than from adding efficiency-focused technology. I don't know if you would consider yourself in that category. In this article, and the article is from, a couple months ago, by the way, Mark Tenenbaum is the director of research at Kitces, shares an early preview containing data from the forthcoming Kitces research on advisor technology, such as solo firms investing more heavily in tech tools designed for administrative work do not consistently spend less time on their work or report higher levels of well-being. So I'm wondering, how do you, square that with what you were just talking about? You can see the comments here. People are really talking about how they get more ROI out of hiring people than adopting tools. And how do you think of, I'm sure you're quite familiar with this presentation at Futureproof. How do you react to this and how do you think of this?
Yeah, I think you and I, Mark, were at the Futureproof retreat when he actually presented some of these findings live. And I did find them very interesting. I think it's certainly true that hiring people will give you more leverage. I don't think anybody's saying that that's not the case, right? Like if you're a solo advisor and you're doing everything yourself, of course you should hire some people to help you. And specialization of labor, I think, has been around for many centuries, and we know that that's really important. I think it's interesting, this claim that if you get some software to help you be more efficient, I just find it like a weird claim. It's almost like this false binary of like, should you get software or should you hire people? And it's kind of like, well, you should do both. And you should give the people you hire great software so that they can continue to do great. I think of this more as an evolution, right? So if I'm a solo advisor, I have no help, I hire somebody, that's incredible leverage just overnight. And if I get some software that helps me with my workflows, it might give me leverage. If I don't have that many clients, it might not give me that much leverage. If I'm growing and now I'm adding a lot of clients at a time, and now suddenly I'm not just what's the Jay-Z line? It's like I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man.
Businessman.
Yeah. So if you're transitioning from I am the business to I'm building a business, that's where I think you see technology become increasingly important. And if so solo advisor is one thing. If you look at a firm, we've got customers that have hundreds or thousands of advisors. And of course, they're thinking about how does technology help drive efficiency. And my sense from this study, this research was he was primarily focused on kind of a pod where you've got maybe a lead advisor, maybe they got a couple people. So anyway, that was a long way of me saying, I just think you have to do both of these things. Like, I don't think you're choosing, I'm only hiring people or I'm only going to buy software. You have to do both in order to keep up.
I mean, I recently added someone to my team. Shout out to Tara, my awesome team member. And part of like the interview process before she got onboarded was how familiar are you with AI tools, and asking about like, if I gave you certain tasks, how would you leverage them to be more efficient? And I can see regularly that things that I get sent, whether it's creating social media content or things like that, have been AI assisted. And I'm like excited every time I see that. Now I want to refine it. I want to make it a little bit better. But the thing is, like, it's allowing her to be even more effective, to get more done even faster. So I want you to be AI enabled. Getting back to the
maybe on that
Kitces
just real
study.
quick, James. So
Yeah.
one thing that we've seen, which is pretty interesting, I'm actually really curious to see how this plays out. The traditional model of the relationship an advisor has with whoever they're affiliated with, whether it's a big wirehouse or a big RAA, it's pretty decentralized and it's pretty hands-off on average, right? It's kind of like, hey, welcome to the team. Here's your jersey. Good luck. We're going to give you a tech stack. We're going to talk a lot about the tech stack we have.
Yeah.
It's kind of like up to you to go make it rain. And I will say one thing that's been very interesting for us, we work with some firms that take much more of a centralized, this is how we do it here. We have the fill in the blank way. And because of that, they have much more of an opinion on these are the technology tools we use. This is how we use them. And this particular RAA that I'm thinking about, we engaged with them. The first use case was, hey, let's obviously save a bunch of time after meetings on documentation. This particular firm, they target kind of the mass affluent. So they have a large number of clients that have lower net worths than maybe some other firms that serve folks with very high net worths, but have a smaller number of clients. So like, yeah, we got to get our advisors through these meetings and get them documented and moved on to the next one. And then they said, well, we have this whole other team. Their whole job is just to prospect and kind of call and do email and just LinkedIn and whatever they can do to find prospects for new clients. Let's go do jump there. And that's a very different use case. That's scorecards for how well did we build rapport? How well did we capture all the information that can help us know when they might be ready to work with us? Are they even a good fit for us, right? Are we communicating our value proposition? That's a very different output note, very different scorecard, very different follow-up email, different everything, exactly. Right? We're updating opportunity records in Salesforce. And then they said, hey, let's actually go do this in tax now. Like, let's go figure out how to make our tax practice better. And really the only point I'm trying to make here is because you have a strong centralized team that has a point of view on this is how we do business here, they're getting way more leverage out of their technology than just hey, here's a tool, you're welcome, good luck. I'm not saying it can't also work, but I do think the ability to get that return on investment, there's a bit of an edge when it's a little more top-down oriented, I think.
Well, it's decentralized learning. Every person's kind of on their own to figure it out versus the group learnings, being used together to figure out what do we do next? How do we make things more efficient?
Yeah, and we were talking last week about AI for efficiency versus effectiveness. And I think what you're really describing is the effectiveness argument, right? There's a big thing around personal empowerment, getting best practices across the enterprise, especially in these decentralized situations. And so I think that's really good. Hang on, I do have an urgent message here coming in from Joe Moss. Oh, are you building a CRM?
Amazing. We are not building a CRM. Joe's awesome, by the way. I really like him. Joe and I have a great relationship. We actually exchange messages all the time. And I was giving him a hard
Fantastic.
time. For those maybe not familiar with this somewhat inside joke, I guess. Joe noticed that on our website, we had added contacts to our, like a concept of contacts to our software.
Third rail.
Yeah, he kind of took that and sort of built this whole narrative around, well, that means it's Jump's going to like make a CRM. And he actually asked me about it, and I was like, we're not doing a CRM. And then he kind of like published it anyway, and I teased him about that. But and by the way, like the way that we'd written this up on the website is like very understandable why he would interpret it that way. We are not building a CRM. Like we have zero desire to compete in the CRM category. We have a lot more interest in a lot of other things that have never been done before. We just don't have interest in competing in the CRM category. The CRM itself has evolved dramatically over the years. It was a Rolodex with some names and phone number and address on there. And I'm thinking of the Office episode where Michael Scott writes his like clues on there of like, what to say, little notes. And, now if you go look at Salesforce, like it's a CRM, but it's like everything, right? It's like every cloud thing you can think of they're doing. So I think even just the category of CRM is like interesting now, right? I don't even know what it means anymore, right? So
Yeah, but it does. But there is this question: if Nitrogen and Wealthbox and all these other tools have note taking capabilities, or let me actually use another term, meeting intelligence capabilities built in, then are you leaving yourself exposed by not having some of those relationship intelligence capabilities built in? And especially if the API terms change and you don't have access to that CRM data and can't write to the CRM as easily, then does that put you in a difficult spot?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have good relationships with all of our CM partners, so this is not something that I'm like think will happen.
Mm.
I think that it would be really weird if every incumbent software provider, every existing software provider wasn't looking for all the different ways they could add AI, right? I think of all of these different AI capabilities the same way I think of AWS or Azure or Google Cloud Platform. Like these are essentially utilities that it's up to the technology company to figure out what's the best application for this. And so that's how we look at it. I mean, like, of course, the process of transcribing audio, turning that into something interesting, that's going to be available in many places. And so the burden is on us at Jump to have the best possible solution that's specific to advisors, that's holistic, that addresses their needs. Our intention is to do that in a complementary way to what the pre-existing CRMs are doing. We're much more interested in things.
Or be vampires, if we want to reference last week.
What's that?
And John Rourke's.
Yeah, if you're eating blood for lunch, we're talking about being vampires. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we have no desire. And by the way, John and I also swap messages. And he, like that day, he was like messaging me. And so, some of this is just fun, but
yeah,
we have no desire
stir the pot.
to negatively impact anything that these folks are doing. We are way more interested in what's not on the fintech map. Like what can we do that's completely different? To me, that is much more exciting, doing something that's new, as opposed to trying to kind of like muscle into some pre-existing category.
And I actually think it begs the question of what the appetite for innovation is among advisors. It might be a bit of an impolite question, but like, I think I've spoken to a number of advisors who talk about the fact that their clients are older. Of course, there's the great wealth transfer, but that might be, a decade out or so, or maybe 5 to 10 years out. And you've made an elegant case on a couple of podcasts about how people should be thinking about that. But ultimately, a lot of people just want stuff FedEx. They don't want DocuSign. They're allergic in some ways to this technology. And if they do need to use a note taker, hey, Zoom is built in. I don't want to think about it. Zoom is approved. Microsoft Copilot approved. I don't want to take the time to try to vet something new and try to deal with it. How do you address, and of course, you've done a brilliant job of getting LPL and Mosaic to sort of approve this technology for their advisors, but of course they still have to adopt. So how do you think of, is there a cap on adoption of the 30,000 odd advisors out there? Are some just going to age out? Is it about the new people coming in? What have you seen out there as you've sort of been on the front lines?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. When it comes to adoption, of course, every technology has an adoption curve. And I think we're all familiar with kind of like the crossing the chasm structure where
we've talked about that.
Like your early adopters, and then you've got your adopters, and then like some technologies never make it across to kind of like the broad majority of folks. I think what we've seen, at least in our category with the AI meeting assistants, is we haven't had that issue so far. And I think that's partially it's because our founding team has done other software in the past that required behavior change. For the user to actually get value out of the software, they had to change the way they worked. Very difficult to do that. So when we came into this, we said, okay, we're going to try very hard to just allow our users to do what they always do and just very naturally intervene. And I think at least in the first primary use case of meeting assistance, we've been able to do that. And we're not the only ones that have been able to do that, but certainly the category has been able to do that. And so I think the adoption has been really strong, even from advisors that traditionally are very kind of like resistant to adopting tech. It helps that the impact is immediate, right? You're instantly saving multiple hours a week. In some cases, we've had some advisors say they're saving like 3 hours a day. That'd be an extreme case. It's probably more like 90 minutes a day or something on average. So I think that really helps. Of course, there will always be some advisors that just like, I'm good on paper. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
And it's fine, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
We're okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, you have to get people open to it in the first place. And I think what I'm hearing from you, there's enough latent demand of people wanting to save time, be more effective, that they go through the pain of learning a new tool because they see that on the other side.
Yeah. And of course, there's so much nuance that goes into building the product to make that possible, right? I mean, even just where do you put the buttons and what color are things? And, these are all the little things that people need in order to adopt technology. And I think we've really tried to invest heavily in talented team members that are very good at product design, very good at UX, UI, and then bring some of those skill sets.
Very cool. Well, speaking of tech adoption, I do have, as we close, just a more personal question, which is, what is the AI tool you find most impactful that's, obviously not Jump and not note-taking or meeting assistance? I'd love to just get your personal take on just your personal diet.
Yeah, for sure.
But what's been most impactful?
For sure. I see chatbots like ChatGPT, et cetera, as kind of the Microsoft Excel or the Google Docs of the AI era. So of course, I'm using that all the time for all kinds of things. The one that I
On
think
the Pro plan, or what plan are you on ChatGPT?
I do have the Pro plan. I will admit,
right.
I'm not using like the full kind of like, I need to do more with the advanced.
Are you using Pulse? Did you opt into Pulse?
I have not gotten into Pulse yet. I need to.
Okay.
I need to. I think it just came out last week, so
that's right. Yeah.
So I haven't yet, but yeah, I need to check it out.
Well, you have a business to run. It's understandable.
Yeah, and been traveling, but I think the one that's the most fun for me, and I'll do this with my kids. We'll do this with friends. I think the image generation and the video generation features are just unbelievably fun. And have you ever played the game with kids or whoever where it's like the one word story where like I'll say once and then say upon and James.
Yeah, you continue the story.
Yeah, you build out this story. So I was just driving. I was on a road trip with my son, and we did this game, and it ended up being this like really hilarious, funky story. And then we basically took that and we kind of like typed it into ChatGPT, and we said like,
"That's great."
Do a video, and it was wild. It was like this.
That's awesome.
Bug made out of diamonds that was eating like ideas. It was like very funky. My son's extremely creative. So anyway, so that's really fun. I will tell you one other one, which was really fun. We did this game with some friends. This is like a summer trip with some friends and spouses and everything. And you have to paint your partner, but you don't show them till the end. So you sit next to each other, you paint a portrait. Like my portrait looked like a Muppet. I turned it around and like...
Yeah, this sounds like a very hazardous game.
Yeah, you have to have like good rapport with your spouse.
Yeah,
and my wife was actually good, So anyway, so that alone was really fun. But then we took those portraits like the next month and we put them back into ChatGPT and we said, this is a portrait of somebody real, like turn it back into a photorealistic photo. And that was also pretty hilarious. So I would highly recommend, if you're bored one weekend, any of those are a blast.
I'll share a personal anecdote since you gave the one word story one. We recently took a trip. I have a 16-month-old daughter, and we recently took a trip to San Diego. And when we were on the way out of the San Diego Zoo, she picked out a little toy, and it was a little toy octopus, and she wouldn't let it go. She still clutches onto this octopus. So I had Claude, or one of them, basically write a song about her octopus.
That's awesome.
And so now we have a little song that can go along with her octopus.
Yeah.
Was it like the lyrics of the song?
Yeah, I had it write the lyrics, and then I'm gonna have it put to. I'm gonna have it generate the music too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think now you can kind of like generate actual music out of that, which is
And then you can load it into Vibes, and you can have it generate a whole video. And you can
There you go.
create
Oh
your
yeah,
own
now I got to
version
see the
of
whole
AI
thing through.
slop. Yeah, got to see it all the way through.
Man, now you just gave me work this weekend.
I know.
Then
You
you can-
got
I got
the whole
something
video
fun to do.
Yeah, you gotta get the video, little music video with the octopus.
I'm gonna have to get this together. We're gonna have to show it on a future episode. We'll
Absolutely.
have a little octopus song.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Parker. Really appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to seeing how things progress into the future. Where can people catch you next? Can you share more about conferences you're going to? Anything else in terms of how people can reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, you can always find us at jump.ai. So that's the website for Jump. I don't even remember all the conferences that we're lined up to go to. I'm sure I'll see you guys there. But yeah, if you kind of follow Jump on LinkedIn, and it's Jump Advisor AI. Actually, just really quick funny story. When we went on LinkedIn for the first time, we put in Jump, and we're like, well, duh, there's like 100 companies called Jump. How's anyone going to find us? So I just put in there Jump Advisor AI. And then we saw what happened was we have these like a lot of smaller competitors that like when they started their companies, they're like, oh, I guess we need something in the tagline. So we saw all these other companies with like AI for advisors or like secure AI for advisors or like agent. Yeah. And it's like, I guess we like very unintentionally started this thing. Advisor AI is how you can find us on LinkedIn, and would love to connect there. And of course, my personal LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, some people even create podcasts like that. We joke that like every company is now AI for advisors. Jump AI for advisors.
I know.
AI for advisors.
I apologize for cluttering like LinkedIn with these like dumb taglines. That was you found out.
We're running out of names.
Yeah,
you need these more descriptive things.
the one that was coming up was so A-Rod, like the baseball player.
Right.
That was a company called Jump. It's a Ticketmaster competitor, and so that was popping up. So we're like, all right, we need something. So that's where that came from.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, and appreciate you taking time with us. And we'll look forward to seeing what you do out there in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Parker.
All right, bye-bye.